Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking on a truly unique source, and I'm really eager to see what insights we can pull from it. Our mission, as always, is to take fascinating material, find those key nuggets, those aha moments, so you can quickly get up to speed. Today, our source is a channeled message. It's said to come from Mira of the Pleiadian High Council. Now, however you view its origin, we're here to extract the ideas. And these ideas are pretty profound. It talks about 8 layers or beams of what it calls Christ consciousness, which are apparently emerging for humanity right now.
Right. And it's really important to understand right off the bat, this Christ consciousness isn't about religion or dogma, not at all. Think of it more like a universal blueprint for unconditional love, deep compassion, that interconnectedness. It's a state of awareness anyone can tap into. These layers, as the message describes them, are like aspects of a higher divine consciousness becoming more available. They're here to help us live with more unity, more peace, more love, especially as Earth itself is, raising its vibration. And maybe as we go through this, just reflect a little bit, which of these beams feel strong for you already? Which ones might you want to sort of nurture a bit more? It's really just a loving observation, not a test or anything, just acknowledging your own growth journey.
That's a great way to frame it, a loving observation. I like that. Okay, so let's set the stage and dive into these 8 transformative beams together. They seem to offer a really different way of looking at things.
Yeah.
So kicking us off, the first beam, unity above separation. This one tackles what the source calls the ancient illusion of fragmentation.
Yeah, and it's fascinating how deep this illusion goes, isn't it? We've been taught for so long to see ourselves as separate, competing. This feeling of scarcity, like there's not enough to go around. It fuels conflict, even wars. And the message points to the ego mind as a big part of this. But importantly, the ego isn't bad. It's necessary for navigating life here. But when it's the only lens we use, that's when it creates this great mirage, this illusion of separation and struggle. It even affects spiritual seeking, right? Making people look outside themselves for the divine instead of realizing it's already within.
Oh, okay, so if this illusion is so deeply ingrained, what's the practical antidote? How do we actually counter that great mirage day to day?
It's surprisingly simple, really, but powerful. Just take a moment each day amidst everything, breathe deeply, and consciously remember. The same divine source lives in you and in everyone else. That remembrance helps you become what the source calls the calm eye in the center of the storm. You see the chaos, the ups and downs, but you're not swept away. So when something difficult comes up, you can pause, go inward, and silently affirm something like, "This too is an expression of the light behind the appearance. We're all part of the same source." It's not about excusing bad behavior, but seeing beyond the temporary appearance.
And what happens when we do that? What's the actual result of shifting to that perspective?
Well, you might find judgment starts to dissolve. Compassion just naturally arises. Conflicts might soften, or you see them differently as opportunities for growth, maybe. It's realizing that any error is just someone forgetting their divine nature temporarily. So practicing this beam really anchors that feeling of unity. You start living as a reminder that we really are one family.
Okay, so from inner unity to, unity in action. Beam number 2 talks about leadership and soul-guided service, how you engage with collective leadership and decision-making. And it says something quite bold. Your superior presence is exactly what is needed in these spaces to elevate their vibration.
Yes, and this is crucial because, let's face it, many spiritual inclined people feel, repelled by old-style politics, all the conflict and ego. But the message is clear. Enlightened beings, people with awakened hearts, need to participate. It doesn't mean everyone has to run for office, of course.
Good.
It means bringing that light, that wisdom into any decision-making space. Your workplace team, the school board, community groups, even just family discussions about important things. Because councils, governments, they reflect the people's vibration. If heart-centered people step back, fear and greed can dominate.
That makes sense, but how do you actually do that? How do you stay centered when you're in a potentially charged environment, maybe with people operating from a very different place?
The practice is to consciously anchor yourself in that truth from the first beam. Each person involved is a precious facet of the one divine mind. You actively look for the light in everyone, even if their behavior is challenging. When you hold that space, you naturally start asking different questions, wiser questions. You listen more deeply. And solutions start to emerge that consider everyone, including the Earth, future generations. It's about bringing the Creator's wisdom into the choices being made, and decisions made from that higher consciousness. They carry an energetic mark of integrity. They just feel different, more just, more transparent.
The message does warn about old energies trying to divide and distract in these spaces. How do you handle that feeling of overwhelm?
Pause. That's the key. Pause, recenter, breathe, remember why you're there. Then, calmly, speak your truth. As sovereign ambassadors of love and unity, it's about holding that frequency, even when things get tough. You help ensure compassion guides the way forward.
Okay, this leads into the third beam, which feels huge. It says that every error, suffering, and even what you call evil ultimately originates from one thing: the false belief in separation from the divine. Wow. That's a radical reframe for how we view negativity and pain. Let's unpack that.
It really is a profound shift. The message explains that this core belief in being separate, cut off from source, leads to immense fear, emptiness, despair. And from that place, harmful actions can arise: greed, violence, control. But these aren't seen as inherent evil. They're described as symptoms of a deep spiritual loneliness, like someone acting out because they're lost, temporarily under the spell of separation. Again, it doesn't excuse the actions.
No, of course not.
But it changes how you relate to them.
So what does that give us? If we adopt that perspective, especially when facing real harm or injustice, how does it empower us instead of just making us, passive?
It frees you from the heavy burden of carrying judgment, anger, hatred.
Yeah.
Because condemning just feeds the cycle, right? Instead, you become an alchemist of the heart.
An alchemist of the heart. I like that.
Yeah. It means you transform negativity not by fighting it head on, but by seeing through it. So when you encounter darkness, you acknowledge the error, yes, but then you silently affirm the truth. The true self of that person is the light of God. You recognize the darkness is temporary, ultimately powerless against divine love, and that compassionate seeing, the Source says, can actually help soften the situation, invite the other person's soul back towards the light.
Now, this applies not just to people's actions, but to things like disease, poverty.
Exactly. The message frames those as collective manifestations of the same illusion: scarcity, separation. So instead of fearing them or fighting them with anger, you hold the deeper truth. Each person is a child of the divine, whole, provided for, and loved. It's this gentle, firm clarity, this knowing that truly heals. It allows God's grace or divine energy, whatever term you use, to flow through you to where it's needed.
Okay, so seeing through the illusion of separation, that flows perfectly into the fourth beam, sacred witnessing, learning to observe the world and yourself without the distortions of ego, fear, or dualistic thinking.
Precisely. This beam addresses something common in maybe older spiritual teachings, this idea of two competing powers: God versus the devil, good versus evil, health versus disease. But that dualistic view, the message suggests, actually drains your energy and faith. In this emerging consciousness, there's only one power, the power of divine love. Anything else is just a temporary shadow, an appearance without real substance. Sacred witnessing also means dropping the ego extremes: neither I'm the only savior nor I'm worthless. Just being a clear, neutral witness, a lens for the Creator's light.
How do you practice that? Being a clear witness when the world feels so chaotic? Is it just ignoring problems?
Not at all ignoring. It's about consciously remembering, in every situation, that only the divine is truly real and active. So maybe you're walking down a busy street. Your inner knowing affirms the Creator's life is in every single person here. Or you see troubling news. You acknowledge the appearance, but silently affirm, behind this appearance, the perfect light is working to resolve this. This isn't being naive. The Source calls it powerful spiritual activism on an energetic level. You're refusing to feed fear with your attention and belief. If action is needed, you'll be guided to act, but from trust, not panic.
And the message mentions we might start noticing small miracles around us, like things just resolving more easily.
Yes, those are signs that the veil of duality is thinning in your presence. Your witnessing helps make that veil more transparent. It creates an atmosphere where the inherent perfection, the divine order, can show itself more easily. In fact, the Source says miracles are the natural state of a world totally bathed in Christ consciousness. This practice helps you experience that more often.
Okay, from witnessing unity to trusting it. Beam 5, trust in divine provision. This feels like a big one, changing our relationship with work, money, abundance.
Oh, it's huge. Because the old paradigm was so much about anxiety, struggle, the belief in scarcity, work hard, worry constantly, hope there's enough.
Right, the grind.
Exactly. But in this elevated consciousness, the understanding is The universe always supports your creations, like the birds, the flowers they're provided for. Your role isn't frantic effort, but joyfully expressing your gifts, following your soul's nudge, your intuition. When you're doing what lights you up and serves others, you naturally align with that flow of divine provision.
How does that look materially, though? People have bills to pay. How does divine provision translate into rent, money, or groceries?
Well, the message suggests you start noticing resources, money, opportunities, help appearing right when needed, sometimes through work, sometimes unexpectedly, a gift, a new idea, someone showing up. The fundamental shift is letting go of that scarcity mindset and comparison.
Yes, comparison.
There is more than enough. Someone else's success doesn't take from you. It actually shows abundance is flowing, and it can flow to you too. The source is infinite.
So what are the practices? How do we cultivate this trust daily?
Gratitude is key. Daily gratitude for what you have and what's coming. Feel it. And consciously replace worry thoughts with affirmations like, I am always provided for by the divine. Trusting it can come in many ways. When challenges do arise, financial, work-related, the advice is stay calm. Listen inwardly. What's the intuitive guidance? Learn a new skill. Call someone. Try a different path. Trusting that inner nudge opens doors that fear and over-effort would keep closed. Sustenance becomes this beautiful dance of co-creation with the spirit. Life feels lighter.
All right, Beam 6. Gentle evolution, not revolution. True transformation happens through vibrational upliftment and loving choices, not aggression or revenge.
Yeah, this looks at history. How often have forceful changes, violent revolutions, harsh punishments just ended up recreating similar problems down the line? Because the underlying consciousness, the fear, the anger, the desire for power didn't really change. Lasting peace, lasting justice, the message says, has to blossom from within. It requires a critical mass of people awakening their hearts to love and compassion. When enough people hold that higher frequency, the old, harmful systems just lose their energetic support. They can't function in the same way.
But does my small individual choice really matter when the problem seems so huge?
Absolutely. Every single day offers chances for this silent evolution. Choosing calm over snapping back, forgiving someone, making an eco-conscious choice. Think of each loving choice as a vibrational vote for the world you want.
A vibrational vote.
Okay.
Your ripple joins countless others, it creates a wave. When millions make these choices consistently, it reaches a tipping point. That collective energy influences everything, even leaders and institutions. You don't have to change the whole world yourself. Just start with your own choices, your own vibration.
What about feeling angry or despairing about what's happening in the world? That feels pretty real sometimes. Use it as fuel. Not fuel for aggression, but fuel to bring more love right here, right now. The message emphasizes that each choice, however private or simple, sends a wave of light in the invisible realms. These waves gather power. They can silently disarm hatred, break down walls without any violence. You become part of this invisible army of light, gently ushering in the new era.
Moving to Beam 7. This was intriguing. Freedom from age limitations. Releasing collective beliefs about age that limit our potential.
Isn't that fascinating? It challenges all those ingrained societal scripts. Terrible twos, rebellious teens, inevitable decline in old age. The message calls these powerful thought forms essentially self-fulfilling prophecies. We collectively agree they're true, so they tend to manifest. But from a higher view, each soul is unique. Divine intelligence is always present, constantly renewing itself from birth right through our transition and beyond.
So how do we live that? Does it mean we literally stop aging? Or is it more about our experience of aging?
It's definitely about the experience. It's about shifting the internal script. For example, a parent who truly sees their child's inherent wisdom beyond the behavior, that reinforces the child's connection to their higher self. Maybe less drama, fewer crises. Or when you hit a milestone birthday, instead of buying into decline narratives, you affirm, I am an ageless being in constant renewal filled with source light. That intention shapes your reality, potentially leading to more health, vitality, purpose later in life.
And how does this affect how we treat others across different age groups?
Be mindful of language. Drop the getting old jokes, Speak life, affirm wisdom and radiance increasing with time. Treat younger people with respect for the soul they are. Listen to their insights. See older people not as finished, but as evolving souls with ongoing contributions and experiences. This creates a different field of belief around age, dissolving those rigid patterns, allowing for more vibrant, harmonious lives at every stage.
Which brings us beautifully to the final beam, number 8, living as a model of the divine human. This seems to be where everything comes together, right? Putting it all into practice.
Exactly, it's the integration. This beam calls you to fully embrace your role as conscious creators of the new Earth by living the previous 7 beams. And Mira's message distills it down to 3 core moment-to-moment practices. 1. Keep recognizing that single divine source living through everyone and everything. 2. Understand that darkness or evil is just a temporary shadow. It has no lasting power against the light. So no fear, no hatred towards those caught in it. Only see the truth. And 3. Actively be an ambassador of light. Be the example. Treat others as loved souls. Honor the earth. Maintain integrity always, even when the old world doesn't.
And it stresses that the biggest impact isn't always the big public stuff.
Right. Often it's the intimate moments, that private act of forgiveness you choose, helping in a community garden, making an ethical choice at work nobody sees, even just your quiet meditation time.
So those small things have cosmic importance.
That's what the message says. Each one of these acts is actually cosmic in its importance. Every time you choose love, unity, trust, you're writing a new code into the collective consciousness. Like updating humanity's software, making it easier for the next person to choose that higher path. When you carry these 8 beams, you literally become a walking temple of light, anchoring that divine presence right here, right now, building the new earth, choice by choice.
Wow, what an incredible journey through these 8 beams. As we wrap up this deep dive, it really strikes me how these aren't just, nice ideas. They feel like a practical operating manual for navigating, well, everything.
They really do offer a powerful framework, drawing from that wisdom attributed to Mira. And perhaps a final thought for you to ponder as you go about your day. What might be the immediate, tangible impact on your life right now if you intentionally chose to embody just one of these beams more fully today? How could those seemingly small, consistent choices you make ripple outwards, actually helping build the energetic foundations of the golden age this source talks about?
That's a powerful question to sit with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. And thank you for your curiosity and openness. Keep exploring these ideas. We'll catch you on the next one.